Okay, welcome to Masechus Bava Kama, Yerushalmi, Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis at the bottom. Mao Shabbat Mitzvah Shabbat Lekula. So we had said on Daf Chav Zayin the other day that we said I'll just start a couple lines more up. Tani kein aber Rabbi Yossi met von Umur bestei Idiois bestei Asroy, so beide Sachen Asroy Achas kol Shabbat Mitzvah Shabbat Lekula. So we say Mao Shabbat Mitzvah Shabbat Lekula. Rabbi Yossi made that statement. So we said once in Adis, if it's the Tali, it's one set, it's one act of Adis, let's call it. So then it's Batla Mitzasa, Batla Kula, whole thing is gone. Okay. So why does he why does he hold it at Adis Batla Mitzasa, Batla Kula? Why does he hold it at? And we're gonna go with the Pnei Moshe over here. I just found that um, as the most comprehensible pshat. So he says like this. We're talking about a case when we go weiter. Right, they're saying that Basar Nisan, Shekanov Shor Be'echav Nisan, that he had stolen a Shor on the first Nisan, Tavach Macha Ba'asar Ben Nisan, and that day in Asar Nisan, that they were saying that's when it's Tavach Macha. Fine. Now, Huzmo, however, B'chamisha Asar Ben Nisan, they became Muslim on the 15th of Nisan. Now, when they became Muslim on the 15th of Nisan, they became only Eidei Azama on the Tvicha Umechira. That's what they became Eidim Zayim on. So now, what we're thinking now is like Reb Zera said yesterday, that Eid Zomim ein nifsal bebezin, elam atzmu nifsal, that he doesn't become nifsal bebezin, we had said means mikana lahaba, he only becomes nifsal me'atzma, in other words, lemafreya. So now, so that being the case, so Reb Yossi holds like this. Since the Edis of the Gneva and the Edis of Trimachir Rebbe Maimed Echad Hayo, in other words, they came and they said on the 10th of Nisan, he had stolen a shar on the 1st of Nisan, and he shechted it today, the 10th of Nisan. So it was one act. So that being the case, and we're saying Lemafreu Nifsal, so they become puzzle from the scholas of the Edis, from the schola of the Edis. Right? And what happens is the edus of the Geneva itself also becomes puzzle, so it's mechuyev them to pay. So the whole right, and he's pater knows the Ganev in this case will be pater from the Kefo, even though again they were only Muslim on the Tvich Mechira, but the psul begins from the beginning of that act of edus, and that act of edus started with obviously the Geneva. The Rabbanon hold no. They only become Muslim on what they were Muslim for. So they only become Muslim on the Tficha Mechira. They're not Muslim on the actual Geneva. Therefore, the guy will be chayiv to pay kef on the Geneva, because that they weren't Muslim on, but he's parted from the Dal Vehei, because that's what they were Muslim on. So we're saying that this is Eid Zon Mafreyo Hunifsa. Fine. Amra Baba Mamel Tipotu B'midno Lo Bekrach Echod. But Velesh Maminoklum. Rabba, Mama said this is not a right to anything. Why is this not a right to anything? Because we could be talking about a case where everything was said in one shot. In other words, they came and they said that the Geneva, the Tfich, and Mechira all took place, let's say, on the 1st of Nisan. So they're coming later on. They're saying all this took place on the 1st of Nisan. And therefore, even if you were to say that Mikano Laba, they become pasul. Actually, no. So what they were saying is even if they come and they say the Aiden, they come and they say Adis, right, in the 10th, that he stole on the 1st, Let's just see the Pnei Moshe side. Amar Baba Mabel Tipota Abraisa B'Midan Lo B'Krach Echad. Hagneva Tvicha Mechira all happened in one. They're saying the Adis in one shot. They're saying what happened. They came in. They're saying it all together. Klima. Like it come not like you said. Sheidu Shigana Becha Benisan Matavach Basora Benisan. Like we had said earlier. B'Shamas Minam B'Dekama Bazoma Satvicha Batla Gam Adis Hagneva. That by them becoming Muslim on the Tvicha, now the Adis of the Gneva is also about La Koch de Lafreo Nifsal must be Lafreo Nifsal, like we said earlier. Shafa Pisham Eden Shaganeva Kodma Kama Yam and Mikomakum is battle Edus and Hol Vakachas Nekshevis Gamlin in the Rabbi Yossi, like we had said earlier, it's considered to be one Adis according to Rabbi Yossi, and therefore, Anachanam, the only Muslim on the Tvicha, but since it's one Adis, the Adis of the Geneva is also battle. Lahi, not true. They're saying that they came together. That everything happened back on the first of Nisan. But Husmu, they became Muslim Yisim Bishas Hatficha Shamru. Right, they're saying that they come say, how can you say that guy shechted it first Nisan? You with us you with us the time you claim that he shechted it, you with us somewhere else. Wilkach different azam allein nechshevu kizaymim kimal shas hatficha. So al zaymim they were only husm by the tficha, so therefore it's only tficha. Shrei al shas hakneveli husm beferish. They didn't say when you claim that guy stole imonu yisim. They're saying when you claim that guy shechted imonu yisim. Since it was done all in one shot, all on the first of Nisan, right, like we said, so that whole thing goes bottle. That's even if you hold me kana lahaba. V'lesh mamina klum. Zogt the Pnei Moshe. The Lamafreu Nifsal. We don't see from over here Lamafreu Nifsal. Diklamema the Kulam Mikana Labo Nifsal, because I can tell you that everybody really agrees Mikana Labo Nifsal. Mishas Hazam Veiluchu de Nifsalu. It's only really Mishas Hazam and out that they become puzzle, not going back in the past. The question is like this: what's the machlokes between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbanan? Rabbanan Savri, Dimidloy Yitzam Agneva, Edus and Kemes Agneva. The bottom line is these Aiden came and said, "Imani Yisam Betvicha." So when it's Betvicha, it's only on the Tvicha, and therefore the Gneva is unaffected, and the Ganav would still have to pay his kefil. Rabbi Yossi saw in a Hidalin in Pisoloi Nifsalu. You're right; they didn't become puzzle al Mishas Hazama. And anything that they said in the meantime, between the Tzvicha and the Azama, is fine. However, which negate that very Edus that they were testifying about. Right, in this case, the Gneva, since they came in and said the whole thing, right, in one shot, right? They came in the 10th and they said that he gambit on the first of Nisan and he shecht on the first of Nisan. So even though it's only Mikan Labu and Ifsal, but in that Edis itself, even though it was semi Mikan Labu and Ifsal, that Edis itself becomes possible once they became Muslim in part of it. Betoni Kane, and so to more about Betoni Kane, we have another case, a case of Chazaka. If you have a guy who claims he has a Cheskes Gimel Shanim here, and he has one set of witnesses for all 3 years. Who's Marishaina? Okay, and Bekachlon. If they become Muslim in year 1, so the Yerushalmi holds, that destroys the whole thing. There's no Chazaka at all over here, because if there's no Rishaina, there's no Shnia and Shlishi either. Bishnia, let's say they became Muslim in the 2nd year, right? So what do they have left? They have left, this guy's got left the 3rd year. Shlishis, I'm sorry, the Edis, when it says, Bishnia, that's going in the 1st year. He has at least, okay, it's got at least 1 year. Shlishis hareilu shtei edius, and if the that on the 3rd year becomes they become Muslim in the 3rd year, so it means at least they have years 1 and 2. Fine. So let's just see the Bnei Moshe again. V'toni kenu b'kanal habu nifsalein hoyu rishonim tesefta the peripet of Basra. There's a tesefta of Basra b'cheskes gimel shana v'ach gasin hasam hichzik odam b'fnei shnaim shana rishonim b'fnei shnaim shana shnia b'fnei shnaim shana shlishis. Harei sholish idiots vein edus achas. So let's say he had, like we said, talking about case year one, two, and three, and it's three separate sets of witnesses for one for each year. Klamish, elu shlosh idiots, but starve from lecheskes sholosh shans. What does it mean? So it's sholosh idiots, but then it's starved to one, namely that this guy, if you have two, two, and two, each pair saying that he had 1 year chazaka, you put it all together, he has a chazaka, cheskes sholosh shanim. However, whenever it comes to be mazim them, they're not muslim. They wouldn't pay until all three sets become Muslim. Why? Because then he can say, "Listen, this is what you wanted that guy to lose his field by saying that someone else has a chazak in his field." And that only happens if all three of them, all three sets are Muslim. Fine. V'ktani also learned over the name says Katarishon is a memes or Rabbi Yoder Shtei Shonim. Klemen the Hidel in Tashlum Kedus Achasein Shem Sham Lachizum Kulan. Like you just told me. So Edechanami that they're not Muslim until all three become Eidim Zayim. Kamakal in Cheskes Hamachzik Kol Kat V'Kat Al Shona B'fnei Atzma Meida. Right, each one is being made on its own year. V'Hashona Rishona shows Moisa Hakat Aleha. So in the first year, Ein La Machzik Eidus Aleha. V'Em Yodel Cheskes Shtei Shona Me'edus Shtei Kitas Ha'achreinim. Shnia. Im Nimtzu Zaymim Gama Kata Shnia, let's say, Harev Yodel Shanachas, he has at least one. Shlishis, if the third pair of witnesses now became Muslim, Em Yodel Klum, he has nothing. So if the first pair of witnesses become Muslim, he's got at least years 2 and 3, etc., etc. Fine. However, that was what we were just discussing in the case with 3 different sets of eights. What about if it's one set of 8? It's in all 3 years. Shekat achas hidu al kol hasholish shonim, like we said, nimsu zayim b'rishoina em yedekli has nothing, because like we said, he has nothing to start with. Shniya, but let's say they were Muslim on the second year, harebi yoder shanachas, he's got at least year 1. Shlishis, if let's say they become Muslim on the third year, harebi yoder shtei shanim, he's got 2 years at least. Since they're the only witnesses over here, so kishahuzmu alashon rishona batla keleduson sharei ascholas hachazaka shidu shekeru. The whole thing never even started. So once the whole thing never started, if they became Muslim for year 1, so then that's it. It's all over for all 3 years. If they turn out to be Zayim in the second year, so then they lose the Nemanis for the Shlishis. Again, that's Mikana Lahabo. Rabbi Yoder Shana Achas, and he Hashana Rishona. He's got the first Shaloi Batla, Edusen Elam Mishni of when they became Eidim Zayimim. So it's from me, right? So first year he would have Shlishis. Let's say on the third year they became Zayimim. So Zayimim Mishana Shlishis. Rabbi Yoder Station Mishana. At least he's got the first 2 years. Ad kan met sefte. V'chem fashin lahadacha. So, and the same huzmu b'rishoyne mikach klum klema. She'em b'chazakas klum, it's nothing. B'shona reilo edesachas al shona rishoyne. B'shniam sa reilo edesachas al shona rishoyne. So at least he has year 1. Shlishas reilo shtei idios al shtei shona. V'nafkamina shem yimtza oid edes acheres. The shona shlishas elam etztarfen. Right. So let's say he loses let's say he uses the last year, so he can find another set of witnesses to testify he was there for that third year. No problem, he has a chazaka. Fine. So in other words, that's going forward. In other words, if we believe them in the first 2 years, all he needs to find is another. No, these Abim Zaymim. They're Muslim, let's say for year 3, but we say we're nam on them for years 1 and 2. So all he has to do is go find another pair of Eidos for year 3, and he has a chazaka. Mashenken, if we say that the apostle Mafreya, right? In that case, then they would by becoming Eid Zayim in year 3, it knocks off year 1 and 2. So it's not going to help him to find an Eid for the another set of Eids for the third year. Because in the Haidina de Braisa, Dami Lahaidel, and we're comparing it to our case of Geneva and Tvicha Mechira. So here we're bringing a case, we're showing you a proof that Mikan Labo Nifsa, because we see over here. Right, Sharei im nimtzu zayim mishana shniya yesh hakba mishana rishayna. He's got at least year 1. V'minta edus acherim al shtei hashanim also lechazaka. Right, so we see from over here it's only kan lahaba, because like we said, if it's ulim afreya, then he would have nothing. V'hainu de matama hashasale the loy dam yiklal dalel. So freak the Gemara, and here we're going to change a little bit the gear. So back into the Gemara. V'hechi, right? V'hechi omar. How can you say this? In other words, how can you compare these cases? Im b'meidin ola b'krach echad le'shmami no klum. Lo yasido elai de edus sagya. Let's just see the Pnei Moshe. So v'hechi omar v'hi nuscha yosem es yashavas. This is the correct nusach. Bim de lafia in yachada he u'klam da shas mitama al rabo b'mamol v'hechi omar de meidin ola b'krach echad. Mituk mebrais de le'il. I was saying, right? We wanted to say earlier, the case of Gnev and Tvich Mechir Bikrach Echad, right? V'lesh Mami no Klum, right? That's what we had said earlier. Maisi Rai Mahai Brisa, and then you go and you bring me Rai from this Brisa. Holodami Kedamasik. You can't compare the case of 3 years of Hazaka to a case of Krach Echad of Gnev of Aveda. I can be the cases. Lo Yasido Elai de Eda Sagya. That over here, just I'm going to be in the Pnei Moshe Klima. Dahi beraisa de chazaka loy ayrebeidis b'dias harbe. Sharei kol shana v'shana b'fnei atzmo nechsheves. Each year stands on its own. Sharei ati yochel lahoid al shana zu b'fnei atzmo abal zu b'fnei atzmo. These years are completely separate. It's not what we would call krach echad. Each year stands on its own. Because yesh kan edus al gimel shonim mitzdarfen lechazaka. The only thing is, when you combine all 3 years, which are separate, you end up with chazak. Vim kain have a kamishim eden al dvorim harbe, and if Rabbi Zemi says, as if they're saying edus on many different cases, and one is no shaykhis necessarily to the next. Even though they came in and we accepted them, let's say for years 1 and 2, years 3 they were Muslim, we're not going to go back and let's mazim them for years 1 and 2. That's 2 separate cases, and we said earlier, an Eid Zaymim, right, is really only possible once become possible. He becomes possible really mikan lahabat. Only the mafreya is in the same case. Here these are separate cases. That's considered to be one edus. Right? The tvicha by itself doesn't stand without the gneva at all. If you don't know that he stole it, maybe he shechted. Yeah, right, you're right. Of course, he shechted it, but it was his own. What difference does it make if it was done in one setting or not? That's immaterial. At the end of the day, does the Eidos of the Geneva, is the Eidos of Geneva required in order for there to be a Tvicha over here, to Mechayim Dal Vehe? The answer is yes. Doesn't matter if the Eidim came and said it in one krach or not. So what's Rabbi Mama talking about? Putting them all into one group. Right? Now, Reb Zera started out by saying that this is, we see from here, that's Mafreu Nifsal. Right, and Rabbi Mama wanted to come and say, no, it's not true. What's on my So I can tell you talking about a case with krach echad, right? So it comes, and he brings the right from Chazaka. He says, what shaykhis is to Chazaka, right? To tell me really to mekana lahaba, but because this is a case of krach echad, therefore the guy is puzzle from the Geneva. So it's not true. It's not true. The ride they bring me is simply it's wrong, because the ride you're bringing me is from the case of the Sholish Shni Chazaka, right? And that case, they're all separate from each other. So if that's why over there it's Mikano Lahabo Nifsal, because they're separate from each other. So why over here, right? So it's over there, it's different, Mikano Lahabo Nifsal, but over here it must be that we're holding, even though they are separate, even though they're separate, yet the Geneva is still possible. They become possible in the Geneva too. Why do they become possible in the Geneva? It must be because we're holding that Limafreya, Nifsa. Okay. Zok the Mishnah Locha Dalid. So let's say he steals al pishnayim, but he's only tavech al piyadechad al piyatzme, or he admitted misham tashlomi kefil. However, in misham tashlomi v'chamish, we know moedu knesses potter. Gonna v'tavach b'Shabbos. So here's a chil of Shabbos. Gonna v'tavach lavay dezara, where it's Tvicha Voida Zara is gonna Michelle Aviv Meis Avach Kach Tavach Umocha, gonna be Hiktish. Bakach Tavach Umocha, Misham Tashlumi Kefo. Be'enu Mishalim Tashlumi Above Chamisha, because in the case of, let's say, Shabbos, it's Kamle B'Rabne. In the case of Aviv, he yarshened it before he shechted it. That's when his father died before the Shechit, and therefore it was his. And Makdish it, it's not his. It's not in his rishus, and so once it's not in his rishus, you're not chayiv on the tvicha mechira. Shimon kachim shu chayiv achriyus. It depends. Not all. If we makdish it, it's not a blanket petur. Depends. Shimon kachim shu chayiv achriyus. And if the bailam maintains the chayiv and achriyus, then misham above chamisha, because it's still in the possession of the bailam. If he's not chayiv and achriyus, then takapata, because it belongs to Hagdish. Gone of the Shabbos, like in whatever B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan Mezid B'Chol B'Shagi B'Karban Masrim by the like or maybe carbon. So we see what we're saying over here, that it's commonly Rabbanim, therefore you don't punish him twice. What are you talking about? We see over there that it's Masrim Boy, and this was the Gemara we had in Daf Chav Zayin, that Veloiko maybe carbon. You see, you get both Malchus, maybe carbon. Okay, the Gemara doesn't bring the answer, but the answer was we said that if it's Bidei Shemaim, then he'll get two taka, but once it's Bidei Adam, he only gets one punishment. Man Tanisa, who is the Tana, the Mishnah, who says that when you makdish it, you don't pay dal vehei. So Gemara Reb Shimon, it's Reb Shimon, the Tanin Reb Shimon, Oimer kachim shchai b'achri yusan, misham tushlomi b'ava chamisha. Shein chai b'achri yusan is pater. The Rabbanim, however, argue with Shimon. They hold you never pater just by being makdish it. Makdish it is basically you selling it, and you selling it, you be chayv dal v'hei when you were makdish it.